Greetings and welcome to the BujinTV Insight Interview Series. This is a series where we get to meet the community that's behind BujinTV. I'm James Pankovic and I'm joined today by the co-founder of BujinTV, Christian.
Hi, everybody. Today's guest, I'm gonna run some kind of trivia to see if you guess who is our guest. So the first thing I will say about he is that he is a karate and kobudo practitioner. The second thing I will say is that he is a coffee expert or a coffee lover. Then he is a carrot cake connoisseur.
I think we may have given it away.
Yeah. So if you haven't found out, I'm gonna give you the last clue. He is known as the karate nerd. So guys, without any further ado, I will present you Jesse Enkamp.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a true honor. I love that intro.
Welcome, Jesse.
That's probably the best intro I've ever had.
We are getting better, Jesse.
Jesse, thank you for joining us today, Jesse. Much appreciated. It's been a little while since we last spoke, and you've been very, very busy, as you always are, pushing the boundaries and taking the karate world forward, online and offline. I just wanted to say thank you for everything you do. I think that most of our viewers will probably already know who you are, but just in case, there's some people out there that have just arrived from Mars. Would you like to introduce yourself for their benefit?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jesse, and I'm a professional karate nerd, which basically means that every day from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, all I do is karate. So I read, I write, I travel, I do videos, I teach seminars, and it's basically been my way of life for as long as I can remember.
Jesse, how is your dojo going, by the way? I know that obviously you've been affected by COVID just like anybody else, but how are things there on the ground with you?
Actually, I gotta say, it's better than ever. People are super interested in taking care of their health and getting active, and we have a lot of members. Maybe because I live in Sweden where we're not as strict with lockdowns and stuff, but I gotta say, it's actually great.
So Jesse, you just presented last week something that's been really groundbreaking. Can you please tell us about your new project?
Oh, yes. I just launched an online course that teaches traditional kobudo, the classical weapons from Okinawa, which is something that all the old karate masters also practiced. And I mean, if you go to Okinawa, you will always see weapons hanging on the wall in every karate dojo. And most people know how to use them over there. But in the West, we don't really have that same level of knowledge. And fortunately, I've been lucky to learn these things since I was very young. So I decided to just share what I've learned in an online course. If people want to learn bo or sai or tonfa, nunchaku, kamateko, timberochin, eiku, these different classical weapons from Okinawa, then they can just go to kobudomastery.com and sign up.
Great. So would you say, right now I'm working on fluidity with my students. So I'm trying to teach them how to be fluid in the movement and not do not look so stiff on the shoulders, stuff like that. You know that it's like a lifetime struggle. And would you say kobudo helps you to be more relaxed in karate movements?
I think actually kobudo is a great way to learn how to use the body because a weapon is nothing but an extension of the body. And in many ways, if you hold something that's a little bit heavy, like for instance, in some cases, we would actually practice with a barbell that you get from a gym instead of the wooden ball. And that forces you to use your center, your hips a lot more compared to just using your shoulders, which is very, very difficult when you're using a heavy weapon. So in many ways, yes, it improves your karate biomechanics to a great degree.
So Jesse, yes, you've been inspired to explore a number of different styles in your videos. One which we enjoyed recently was the one where you met the Muay Thai boxer. And that looks like it was a hugely popular video. How was that? Please tell us about that experience.
Yeah, that was actually very surprising to me because all I wanted to do was spar a Muay Thai fighter, and turns out it went viral because he was really famous in the Thai boxing community. And all I knew was that he was very experienced, but apparently he's like a living legend. And I had really fun learning about the traditional way that the Thai boxers fight, which is quite different from the way we do. And that then later made me interested to learn more about Thai boxing and Muay Thai and the old form known as Muay Boran, which some researchers like Patrick McCarthy think is actually connected to Okinawan karate.
Yeah, I remember a few years back when this discussion popped up on the internet. That also inspired me to start looking at it as well. And I agree, it seems like there are a lot of really interesting similarities between old style karate and Muay Boran. Anyway, we enjoyed the video very much. It was very entertaining. We learned a lot. So looking forward to more like that in the future.
Thank you. I learned a lot too.
Would you like to talk about this latest Mike Tyson video and why he uses karate?
Yeah, well, that's actually what I tried to find out in this video, because I heard an interview with Mike Tyson where he claims that his style actually comes from karate because he has a unique style of boxing known as the peekaboo style that was developed by his coach, Costa Amato. And apparently it was influenced by karate, but I have a hard time seeing the karate connection. So even though I've been doing karate my whole life. So what I did was I decided to invite a boxing coach to my dojo and give me a private lesson in this specific style that Mike Tyson is so famous for, known as peekaboo.
So I got to say, the coach is a pretty awesome guy. I really enjoyed watching you and him interact and him kind of taking you through the points of the style there. So his name was Guy Elder, was that right?
Jay Elder.
Jay Elder, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, how was it to work with Jay there?
Jay is an incredibly talented coach. And even though he wasn't a professional boxer himself, he actually did rugby, I believe. And he may have had one or two or maybe more unsanctioned boxing fights, let's put it like that, in the streets of London. But because he's from the UK actually. But for some reason he lives in Stockholm where I live, so we decided to hook up. And the first thing he did was just show me the difference between traditional boxing and this specific style that Mike Tyson uses, which has a lot of different biomechanics. And I think this is actually where the main karate connection lies, because he also does a lot of bobbing and weaving, but I don't see that a lot in karate. I don't know what you think, James.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think the way that we usually get taught karate is from a very static perspective, trying to get structure right before we get movement right. And then we try and bring movement back in. Everything gets broken down into sort of component parts, and then we try and reconstruct it. It feels like when I'm boxing training, it's much more about going straight to the movement and getting the movements right. Lots and lots of repetition. It's interesting that when I look at maybe some of the more experienced karateka, they do tend to become more fluid over time. The hips tend to relax, the knees tend to bend more. They tend to become more lateral, moving side to side, and also using circular movement. So I can't say that I've come across a traditional karateka that moves just like Tyson yet. That would be awesome. Yeah, I can see what you're saying though. I think that Tyson was special. I mean, he was exceptional even within his sport. I mean, how did you feel sort of trying to follow the movements that you were being taught there? Did you feel like some of that was kind of what you were doing in karate too?
Well, what I can say is that the stuff I recognized was the idea of using your center of gravity and your mass, using your hips square to drive force through the ground and have these powerful, especially the body blows. But the difficult part was to not pick a side like right or left leg in front, because it's very square, which is why it works so well when you're super close to your opponent. And that's actually similar to the idea behind, let's say, Gojuru or Uechi or even Kyokushin karate, where you want to have your hips and shoulders square and be very close to your opponent. So it's different from modern sports karate fighting, for instance, where you want to have a sideways stance and be further away.
That's true. You're right there. Is that one of the characteristics of, let's say, the traditional karate or in Okinawa, for example, that I notice, and particularly those styles that venture into sort of more full contact fighting, is that they tend to be much more comfortable with working at a close distance, and I'm much more comfortable with kind of moving around the opponent as opposed to trying to stay out of range all the time.
Exactly.
So yeah, Mike Tyson's style was to move in and to move in and around and to really destroy the opponent from lots of different angles, right? Coming in around low to the side and then coming in at the top. I guess, yeah, we do see some of that in traditional karate practice. If the dojo has a tradition of doing kumite, that's the big difference. You know, for me, that's the big difference, is that so many karate dojos these days don't really have much kumite practice. And, you know, so you don't get to actually apply these sort of dynamic movements.
Or if
like
they
I said,
do have kumite, it might be more of the Olympic style, where you have you want to you know, touch the opponent to get to score a point rather than actually do some damage. And that was Mike Tyson's whole thing. He had that mean, aggressive intent.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I often wonder that if Tyson has sort of progressed from boxing to, let's say, more of a kind of takedown competition format, whether he would have learned to like, use his legs and start sweeping and taking people down, because I think he would have been pretty good at that as well.
Something tells me he would be really good at takedowns, because if you look at people who do wrestling, they're almost in a kibadachi, like the horse riding stance, which also has a very, you know, hips square kind of body mechanics. So I think they would go hand in hand, actually. And people who do Kyokushin karate and move on to MMA, like George St. Pierre, for instance, I mean, he was very successful with that exact combination of wrestling and takedowns together with this type of a stand-up striking style. So yeah.
Yeah, right, absolutely right.
Well, I guess if you receive a jab or a cross punch from Mike Tyson, maybe you say, well, I now I can see the connection to karate.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to even block it.
Well, that reminds me of one of his famous sayings, right? I don't know if this is his most famous saying, but everybody's got a plan going into a fight until they get punched in the face, right?
Exactly. That's a good one.
Okay, well, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the video, for me, it was a really nice progression from the one that you'd published previously, looking at kind of the overlap between some of the real, like the old karate masters from about a century or more ago, Motobu Choki, people like that, and their very kind of upright stance, which was similar to the upright stance of the old Victorian bare knuckle boxers as well.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to. Do you have any more boxing karate crossovers coming up? Any ideas?
We'll see what the future holds. Actually, you'd be surprised to hear that I don't really plan my content that far ahead. I like to work on inspiration, like whatever I feel like in the moment, that's what I do. So we'll see.